Alright, so now that we're done parsing, we can shut down the Unreal Editor if you haven't already and compile these changes into the editor so that it knows about these classes that we just created, and we can then build blueprints from them and call the functions and properties that we've specified with uProperty and uFunction, any changes that we've made in that respect, into the engine. So I'm building from source, so I'm going to hit F5 and just let it build. It'll take a few seconds, it might be quicker on yours. And then it's going to pop up our lovely editor here. And the next step that we're going to take, I've already done, because for some reason it was crashing when I would make a change, but it would still save the actual changes that I made. So what I did was I went to World Settings, which pops up next to the Details panel. So if you're seeing the Details panel of, say, the box brush that we used as ground or the sign mesh, just go to World Settings, and in the Game Mode category, which is the third from the top, set the Game Mode override to Sign Tutorial Game Mode, and then save that out. We're going to be changing the default pawn class in this series of tutorials, in which case the game mode will give control over to whatever class that we specified, so that we can actually say we want this functionality, and that's how we'll map our use key that we've set to E, so that we can then do something based on that input. So when you have that all saved out, what you'll want to do now is go into the Sign Tutorial Game Mode, or whatever you named your class, CPP file, and what we'll do is we'll put down under here, oops, sorry, we haven't actually created our player character class, so we'll add code to project, which will make a character, and we'll call it player character, like that. We'll create that class, it'll add it to our project, and then in Unreal it'll ask you if you want to edit the code. Just hit no, because when we go into Unreal we'll be able to reload, and you have to stop the debugging, so yes. Save changes, no, because I actually didn't use those changes. Reload again, I should have closed Unreal, but we should be okay. It's going to reload our stuff based on the new classes that we have. Just pull open that again. And then we have player character and player character CPP in our solution folder now, or our solution. So now we can go into Sign Tutorial Game Mode .cpp and include player character .h. There it is. And then what that's going to let us do is that's going to let us set the default pawn class to a player character, because Unreal has automatically prefixed our class with A to let us know that it's an actor derived class, and then we're going to use the scope resolution operator to pass out to static class, which is the engine's way of saying use this class, use the instance of this class that exists in the game. So now that we have that, we can build our changes into the engine again, because we added a new class, and we'll build that. Now normally I wouldn't build this often, I would write some more code first, but I'd like to show you what happens when we do, when we set the default pawn class. As you'll see, for some reason my startup project went back to UE4, and we narrowly escaped having to rebuild the whole thing again. So what we'll do here is we'll just hit open on that, because normally we wouldn't have to if we had this set as the startup project. And then if you look, well, that's certainly not right. Let's see what happened here. Let's set this to our sign tutorial, and then we'll build that, because unfortunately when I hit build and we only built the engine itself, or well, rebuilt whatever the engine needed to rebuild at the time, whatever it might have been, we didn't build the sign tutorial project. So that's what we're going to do now, and then we'll see these changes. This is one of the reasons I wanted to do it ad hoc, is that you could see some of the stupid errors that can be made. And that's my speaker popping for some reason. See if I can't turn that off. That is off. And now you'll see that player character is our default pawn class. And now when we hit play, nothing happens at all. That's because there's nothing there. There's nothing mapped to our character. So what we'll do now is we'll pull open our player character class, and we're going to make a few changes. We have to set up so that we can move via the mouse and keyboard, so that we can actually get to our sign. And we're going to do this through the input component and setting up our input events. So we'll set up a few functions here, and we'll do it under a protected access, so that if we ever wanted to make something out of the player character and derive from it, we can do that later. And we'll do virtual void set up player input component with class u input component pointer input component passed in. That'll be handled by the engine for you. And then we'll set up void move front back. We'll give it a value. Oops. And we'll do the same for left and right. We'll also do that for use, but use doesn't take a value, because remember, it's an action mapping and not an axis mapping. And then actually the engine gives you a lovely mouse control built into the character controller as it happens. So we will only actually need to do move front and back and move left and right. So you might have to build your implementation. I'm using a trial version of VIX right now, so they give you this lovely create implementation ability, so I'll just do that a couple of times. And I'm also going to do that for setup input component, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to set it right under here. Then we'll go into edit, project settings, input again, and we'll set up a couple of axis mappings. We'll do one axis mapping for move front back, and then we'll do another one for move left right. And then we'll also, even though we didn't make a function for this, these are the ones that are given to you, thankfully, from Unreal, or the guys at Epic. And we will make this look up down, and we will also turn left right. We'll call it look left right. My apologies if the sniffling gets annoying. My allergies are kicking in thanks to spring up here in Canada. So for move front back, we'll want to set W to 1, which will mean move forward, and we'll set the same thing to S, but we'll make it negative so that we move behind us. And then for move left right, we'll do A, which will be in the negative local X for the character, which will be -1. And then we'll do D, which will be positive local X, and we can leave it as that. We'll set those as default for now, and then we'll go to look up down, and we'll set it as the mouse Y. And since the way that the mouse Y is mapped, you're going to want to set it to negative so that when you look up, when you move the mouse up, you look up, it's not inverted. And then we'll do look left right to mouse X, and that we can leave at 1. And we'll set those as default. And then we can actually come back in to our code. We'll save this out. Oops. And we will start mapping our inputs. So we'll do separate action and axis to keep it nice and easy. We'll access the input component we were given, and we will bind action. And it's going to expect an action name, which we set to use. We're going to need an input event enumeration. So we'll set input event, and then it's going to be pressed, because we're pressing it down. We're going to want to set the owner of this event to our current class, and then we'll want to pass in the address of our use function. So and a player character ampersand a player character use. Don't put the parentheses, because again we're passing the address of the function, we're not actually calling the function. So if you're not familiar with too familiar with pointers, what we're doing is we are dereferencing this function so that in memory it has an address in memory, it's placed in memory somewhere, and this is saying look at this address, come to my front door, this function's front door, and then the engine itself will call it with its internal workings. So with our axis mappings, we'll do the same thing, but instead of bind action, we'll do bind axis. And we'll set move front back as the name, or whatever you chose to name it. This one we don't need a pressed or anything, because it's an axis, so it's just assuming that the value is determining what's happening. And we'll set the owner to this, and we'll send the address of our move front back function. We'll do that a couple more times for our move left right, and then also for our look up down and our look left right. I think we called it look left right. Let's make sure. Input, axis mappings, look left right. And these we can actually set to a player character add controller that's up down, so it would be pitch input, and then this would be add roll. I might actually have my things mixed up, and I do. It's yaw. I always forget which is pitch, yaw, and roll, which I should probably work on fixing. But these functions here actually have built-in functionality. So now if we compile this, so let's exit out of our editor here, and then we can hit F5 or right-click on Sign Tutorial and build to build our functionality in, and we will be able to look up and down and left and right because the functionality is already there. We haven't built any functionality for our front and back or left and right, so when you hit WSAD, nothing's going to happen. So now that we're up in our editor here, we can just hit play, and then there you go. We can look around, but we cannot move in any of the directions. We will have to add that implementation in part 2 of this part of the tutorial, just so that we can keep the time and file size of these videos down, and we can get them out to you quicker. So when we come back, we'll do the move front and back function, we'll do the move left and right function, and then we'll get into interacting with our sign and setting it up so that we can extract a message from it. See you soon.